Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for this webinar on how to find money when there is no extra money to get out of debt. My name is Jennifer Matthews, and I am a financial freedom strategist. And I want to again say welcome and thank you for joining me. Let's get the legal stuff out of the way. I am the owner of Creating Financial Literacy, LLC, and I do not render financial, legal, tax, or real estate advice, and the content provided is for informational purposes only, and you are strongly encouraged to do your own research before making any decisions or taking any type of action. So who am I? As I mentioned, I am a financial freedom strategist, and what I do is I help people develop strategies to achieve their financial goals, and I often end up helping them set and achieve their business goals, and that's what we work towards. Most people want financial freedom, however they define that for themselves. I have an MBA from Johns Hopkins University. I also have a master's degree from LaSalle University. I have made numerous television and radio appearances. You see me there on the set with Roland Martin. We had just finished taping his News Now hour. I've also been on NBC, CBS. I've done 2 PBS documentaries. One was facing the foreclosure crisis in Washington, D.C. Another one was a credit repair documentary that was done in the Baltimore market. I've also been on WEAA, which is an NPR radio station. I've also walked the red carpet in Los Angeles with celebrities following the NAACP Image Awards, which I was nominated. I was very honored to be nominated for an NAACP Image Award, and that was really fun. That was a funny night. I'm not a big TV person, and I was walking the red carpet with all these celebrities, and I didn't know who they were, including Kerry Washington, not Empire. You all know the name of the show? Scandal. Scandal was super popular. I'm standing like 10 feet from Kerry Washington, and I didn't know who she was. But everyone took her picture, so I took her picture too, and then I started asking, who was she? So it was a lot of fun. I've helped thousands of people across the country to improve their finances. I'm also an award-winning best-selling author, and as one of my books was awarded, selected as the book of the year, I was also awarded an Excellence in Financial Literacy Education Award, so that was also a great national honor. So why me? Well, I've been there. I've done that. I've gotten plenty of t-shirts. I've earned them. I paid off $40,000 in credit card debt while saving $15,000 at the same time for a down payment on a house. And at that time, I was making less than $100,000 a year. It took about maybe 2.5 years to do that. I've had health issues that interfere with my ability to work. Some of you know that I'm an 18-year cancer survivor, and I was diagnosed with cancer the day before I started my dream job. You want to talk about a tough first day at work. You have to go in and tell your new boss, hey, yesterday they told me I had cancer, and I need to use the phone today to schedule my surgery, and I don't know anything other than that. That was the conversation I had about 10 o'clock in the morning on my first day at work back in 2000. On November 1st, 2000, that was the conversation I had at work. I also failed. The first time I went into business on my own was back in 2007, and we know we went into the recession right in 2008. Started the business in July 2007. Recession hit 2008. The business went under, and that's how we ended up in all that credit card debt. We had to pay the mortgage and live somehow. So I've done that too. It's another one of those T-shirts that I earned. And I'm very passionate about the community. If you go to my website, you will see some of my pictures working with the community. There is a homeless shelter that I do a lot of work with in the Baltimore County area. It's a family homeless shelter. I bought coats for the children several years. For my birthday, the last couple of years, my friends and I have gotten together and we make that. This past year, November 2018, we made about 500 blessing bags, and we just put shelf-stable food and toiletries in bags, and we keep them in our cars, and we give them to the homeless that you see on the corner. I'm big fan of Toys for Tots. The Marines collect toys, and I'm one of the people that helps give the toys out to the families. So really big in the community. Go to my page, you'll see stuff on my website, and if you follow me on Facebook, I'm always posting stuff that I'm doing in the community, and then a lot of things I don't post. My friends always know I'm doing something, and then they're always calling on me because they know how passionate I am about the community. So that's just a little something about me, as far as so you know who I am. And then let's talk a little bit about you. You're in the right place today if you're stressed by debt. And let's talk a little bit about what's been in the news lately. You may not be stressed by your debt, but you may have been stressed by what you saw in the news for the past couple of weeks with the furloughed government employees and a lot of middle-class, hardworking families standing in line for food and essentials and not being able to take care of their own medical bills and their children's medical bills. It was very heart-wrenching. And me and my community spirit, I put together a 17-page resource guide, put it online, made it available to them, added a 10-page update a week later, emailed it to everybody who had downloaded the guide. One of my friends is one of the top mental health clinicians. I interviewed her, gave a lot of free tips on helping them through anxiety, stress, and depression. Put that out on Facebook. It got hundreds of views online. Still working with these families because it's going to be months before they get back on track. And God forbid that the government shuts down again February 15th. So I'm still, my community spirit that I was just talking about, I'm still working with the families with the employees who downloaded the resource guide. So you may not have been stressed by your own debt, but watching the images in the media over the past couple of weeks, you may be stressed out by thinking it could have been you, that you may be 1 or 2 or 3 paychecks away from being in one of those lines or being in a situation where you have to ask for help. I know my church, for Dr. King's birthday, we were already planning to do a lot of community service work. And then so many of our church members, because I live about 30 minutes from DC and my church is 10 minutes from DC, we were already planning to do a big community service outreach with like 2,000 or 3,000 church members. We actually added to our service that day, and we provided food baskets, perishable and non-perishable food for 3,000 furloughed government employees. So there was a lot of work. If you're not in the DC metro area, there was a lot going on in this area and other epicenters like Utah and Philadelphia and Atlanta. There was a lot going on, but that stressed out a lot of people. So that may have brought you here, or those images may have brought you here because you may have been thinking like, you know, I'm a little closer to their situation than I really want to admit. Or you may be tired of just scraping by. Or maybe you're tired of arguing with your spouse, your significant other, or even your children about money. or you may hate not having money for something that your child wants or your child needs. Or maybe you've been putting off something that you really wanted or you really needed because there wasn't enough money to go around. You don't have enough savings, or you're tired of not taking a vacation, or telling your children no to extracurricular activities. Maybe you're tired of bill collectors. There used to be a song, bill collectors ring my phone, scaring my wife when I'm not home. That was lyrics to a song years ago. But for some people, it's everyday occurrence. I know I had a job where my predecessor, my goodness, every week, the bill collectors were calling my office looking for her. And I struggled to get work done because I'm answering the phone so often, and it's a bill collector looking for my predecessor. And it was interfering with my ability to perform my job. And I kept telling them, I said, she doesn't work here anymore. She's been gone for, 6 months or a year. And the bill collectors kept calling and calling. I said, I don't know where she works, but please stop calling this number because she doesn't work here anymore. And finally, they stopped calling. So those are some of the things, though, when people work more closely with me, they can stop living paycheck to paycheck. They can get out of debt, raise their credit scores, and increase their savings all at the same time so they can start living the lifestyle of their dreams. Again, I said in the intro, I'm a financial freedom strategist. Financial freedom looks different to a lot of people, but those are some of the things. I did it for myself. I got out of that $40,000 in debt while saving $15,000 at the same time. I did it for myself. Even today, I opened my State Farm car insurance renewal. That thing was $70 higher. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. That's $140 a year. I got on the phone with State Farm and said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, that's the renewal increase. I said, renewal increase for what? And they got on the phone and called underwriting. They said, oh, well, you don't have any tickets or accidents. And when I hung up the phone, I was on the phone 8 minutes and 20 seconds because I looked at the time of the call. It was less than. They're going to send me a new bill, less than the amount I paid last year. That's right. Sure is. Okay. So those, you just have to work at it. And that's why you're here tonight. So let's talk about some of the things we're going to talk about. Now, here's what I need you to do. And you're going to see this on a slide. I need you to grab a piece of paper. If you've never been on a webinar with me, I put you to work. But it's work in a good way. Because bullet number 1, finding money. You're going to see this in a slide. I don't know if you can see this. Grab a piece of paper and off center, not down the middle, but off center, just draw a straight line. In the bigger section of the paper, you're going to write notes, and that's where you're going to take your notes, however you want to write it. And on the smaller section of the page, you're going to put a $sign. And as we go through these slides tonight, and you say, hey, that's money that I can recapture, estimate what that dollar amount is and write it over here in the smaller side. And at the end, add it up and see how much money you potentially recoup just for hanging out with me on a bitter cold Wednesday night. Because first bullet, we're going to find some money tonight for almost everybody on this call. We're also going to talk about some simple money management strategies. We're going to talk about avoiding overdraft and other fees, adding to your savings so you're not caught off guard by life. That's kind of what happened with the furlough. And we're going to talk about training tools and support that you can use to create a simple system that fixes the most common money problems while moving you toward the life of your dreams. So here's that note sheet I was talking about. So just grab your paper, draw a line off center, write your notes on the big part, and $sign on the smaller part. And when you see money in this PowerPoint, in this presentation that you know you can recapture. Estimate what that dollar amount is and add it up at the end. Because that's going to be part of your strategy going forward if you choose to do it. It's totally up to you. Totally, totally up to you. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time. So in the amount of time we have, I'm going to do what I can. I'll share with you as much as I can. But at the end, I promise, I'm going to show you how you can work more closely with me. Okay? And we're going to hold the questions to the end to maximize the amount of time that we do have. So grab your notepad, your paper, get excited about both columns, the note you're going to take and the amount of money that you're going to find, and we're going to jump into it. So this is our starting point. Blank sheet of paper, okay? So let's talk about simplicity. I've been gifted with the ability to keep it simple. Okay, I have 5 simple steps, and we're going to take a close look at one of the steps. And we're going to talk about the reappearance of dreams that you might have had that you've forgotten about. Kids, little kids in particular, are phenomenal dreamers. And then the older we get, the further we move from our dreams. And that's why I say I do all these things to help people with their money, so they can start living the lifestyle of their dreams, the lifestyle of their desires. Because one of the things we do is go back and start dreaming again as adults. What does that look like? What does that look like? So here we have a quote from Oprah. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. And at the bottom center here, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. One of the challenges I find that a lot of people have with their money is they overcomplicate it. They develop this fear in their minds about money. Some of it is based upon the money messaging that we all grew up with. We all grew up with some type of money messaging, whether it was positive or negative. Okay, we had some type of money messaging as children, as teens, as young adults, and as adults, depending on how old you are. Okay, but simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. And the more simple we can make the message, and the more simple we can handle our money, the easier and the better it gets, and the easier and better it flows to us. And then we have a midpoint in our money, and then we move on to, we at the smiling piggy bank with the shades on that's chilling. We get this couple over here that's having vacation with money in the bank. We move into the dream. So those are like the 3 stages of the money. But we start. And you may be here, you may be in the middle, you may be at the chill out relaxation stage, okay? But in case you're here, you may be having a lack of cash, an abundance of debt, insufficient savings, financial stress. It's okay. As long as you start somewhere and you have a commitment to yourself. Your commitment is not to me. Your commitment is to yourself to make a change. And stick with the change, see it through, because there are definitely brighter and better days ahead. So here's one idea. Have 2 checking accounts. It's just an idea. One checking account for paying bills, and a second checking account for living in between paychecks. It's just an idea. So how would this work? One checking account with no debit card access. No way to get into this checking account externally. This is where your paycheck would go. So your paycheck would be directly deposited into this bank account. And you would pay your bills there. You would have automatic transfers to savings. This is key. Automatic transfer to savings. And no debit card, no other remote access. You can have a checkbook. A lot of people don't write checks anymore, but you can have a checkbook, but no debit card. okay? And if your bank offers overdraft protection, you can have overdraft protection on here, but no debit card. And then there would be a second checking account that's linked to it, and that's the account where, based upon your spending plan or your budget, you would transfer your quote unquote fund money, living money into the account with the debit card for your day-to-day expenses, your groceries, your gasoline, things like that. And that's where your debit card access is. And when there's no more money in the account with the debit card, you're done. It's like when you're a kid and you had an allowance. When it's gone, it's gone. Because when we're adults, the bank of mom and dad doesn't exist anymore. The bank of mom and dad doesn't exist anymore. So this is one way. For some people, this may work, particularly when it's a two-adult household and you have a shared account. Instead of the two debit cards hitting the account and somebody forgot to put their withdrawal or their purchase into in the register, and now you're bouncing checks because somebody else, went and used the account. This way, it kind of alleviates some of that, because there's no debit card on the primary account. Everybody's direct deposit comes into this main account with no debit card, and we pay our bills there. Our savings comes out of there. And then from that account, we have a pre-established amount that goes into our other checking account where our debit card is. And then we spend day to day from there. Like I said, for our groceries, for our dining out, for gas in the car, for things that the kids need. Okay? So that's just an idea. Now, you want to always balance every checking account that you have. Whether you go with the multiple checking accounts in the previous scenario or stick with what you have. Why? Because most overdraft fees are $25 a piece, with many over $30 a piece. So now let's talk about bounce checks. Okay? When you bounce a check, overdraft on a debit card, or however your account gets into the non-sufficient funds, you get hit with the overdraft, NSF, whatever. If your overdraft fees are $30 a piece and you bounce one check a month, that's $360 a year. So on your piece of paper, if you know you overdrafted last year or even this year, write down your overdraft fees, because you're going to recoup those fees. We're not overdrafting in 2019. So if you know you overdrafted last year, write down the approximate number of times you overdrafted and the amount of your overdraft fees. So if your fees are $40 and you overdrafted about 5 times, that's $200. So write 200 over here, because we're not overdrafting anymore, because we got a new strategy in town. Okay, if you belong to a credit union and your overdraft fees may be $5 or $10, that's $40 or $50 over here. New strategy in town. And you want to inquire about overdraft protection. There's different kinds of overdraft protection. You want to inquire about overdraft protection and see if it's right for you, and then what type of overdraft protection is right for you. Look at the statistics on overdraft protection. In 2016, $15 billion, billion with a B, is how much people spent on overdraft fees, per the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which is under the U.S. Treasury Department. That's reported by the U.S. Treasury Department. $15 billion with a B is how much banks and credit unions collected across the United States in overdraft fees. That's a lot of money. OMG, that's a lot of money. And again, one overdraft fee per month at $30 is $360 per year. I like massages. That's a lot of massages. That's a lot of massages. But here's the kicker. Look at the last bullet. Too many overdraft fees can get you banned from having a bank account at any bank. Your name goes on a list. You know, when you go on the post office, there's a list on the wall of the FBI's most wanted. The banks have a similar list that you don't know about that you definitely don't want to be on. They share a list of people who bounce too many checks, and you won't be able to get an account at any bank. So let's clean this one up. New strategy in town. New strategy in town. Okay, so if you have money in this column, we're going to take that money back. We're going to put that money in our savings account. We're not going to give that money to the bank in 2019. Now, here's the often neglected IOU, our savings account. The savings account rate in the United States is extremely low. And we saw that, unfortunately, during the government shutdown, with so many people struggling from day one of missing a paycheck. It was heart-wrenching for me. That's why I jumped into action so fast, trying to help people. Giving them over 100 ways to make money from home, all over the internet, just reaching out to people with ways to make money. Okay? The often neglected IOU is our savings account. So the solution is money. Cash, the Benjamins, and I thought this one was pretty cool. I don't know, I'm a money geek. So moolah, and I looked it up. That's from Fiji. That surprised me. I said, hey, I'm going to put that on the slide. That's what they call money in Fiji. Fiji is on my bucket list. So when I go to Fiji, I'm going to be talking about moolah. But money is fine, but diligence and discipline are the true solutions. How many people hit the lottery for a whole lot of money and end up broke? Give me a winning lottery ticket, and you will not find me broke. You'll find me a lot of things, but broke will not be on that list because it takes diligence and discipline. The money is fine, but it's what you do with it. It's what you do with it. So there's two types of savings. There's short-term savings and long-term savings. And again, that's part of the strategy. So you want to have both, okay? So when you have the short-term savings, that's going to supplement if you have an employer-sponsored retirement plan. And I'm not licensed, so I don't get into investments and all like that. People who work with me, that's part of the strategy because you absolutely have to have long-term savings. However, you need to have money available to put into the long-term savings. And that's, hey, now you're talking my street because I'm getting the money together for the long-term savings, okay? These short-term savings address emergencies without stress. That's what we saw during the shutdown. People without enough short-term savings to address the emergencies. Ideally, you should have, they say 3 to 6 months savings, but I always say 6 to 12. You always have 6 to 12 months savings because that's how long it takes to find another job, 6 to 12 months. Should also be able to take a cash vacation, make reasonably large size purchases, and have whatever you desire instead of creating debt. I call these things options. I remember years ago, somebody walked into my office and they were like, we got this phenomenal deal going to Jamaica to an all-inclusive and the money is due tomorrow. I was like, oh man, do I need a break? Okay, I'm in. And I paid using a credit card because credit cards have travel protections built in, but I transferred the money to pay off the credit card immediately. I didn't carry the balance, okay? We'll work on that later, okay? But I didn't carry the balance. But I had the option that when someone said, hey, the money is due tomorrow, okay. Not, oh man, can I have a payment plan? What am I gonna pay? Every hour on the hour for 6 hours? I can't do it every month for 6 months. You know, we had like 12 hours, okay? That's what I call options. So with short-term savings, 2 kinds of accounts. Easily accessible, that's what's linked to your checking accounts, and not so easily accessible. I like online accounts for the not so easily accessible. So easily accessible, that would probably be something like your overdraft protection account. And then not so easily accessible, online banks, the one that's come to mind now is Ally, A-L-L-Y. I don't have an account with them. That's just the one that does a lot of advertising. I used to have, they sold to Capital One. Drawing a blank, ING Direct. But if you Google online banks or you Google online banks with highest interest rates, they'll pop up. And very easy to open an online bank account. No debit card, no debit card. And you link it to your primary checking account, in my case, the one without a debit card, and set up automatic transfers. And you can have multiple accounts. I have one for my sorority, and I put money in there all the time so that when there's dues or conventions or conferences or dinners or banquets or whatever, the money is in the bank, it's not in the budget. House cleaner, that's my favorite one. Figure if I work hard, I could support another small business. Vacation, holiday. Christmas is the same time every year, but it seems to catch people by surprise, and they never seem to have any money to go shopping in December. But if you plan it out and you put money away every time you get paid, Christmas should never be on plastic because it always comes on December 25th. So I don't know why that one surprises people. I always tease my sorority sisters that they should have a shoe account because they seem to have this thing about new shoes. You name the accounts whatever you want. You have kids, they have extracurricular activities, karate, judo, basketball, soccer, whatever. Name them whatever you want. And you just automatically transfer, even if it's $10 or $20, go into 5 or 10 different accounts. The money will add up and it will be there when the bill comes due for whatever that item is. If you have a car, there should be a maintenance account because you will need brakes one day. You will need tires one day. So have those accounts. Long-term savings. Work with a financial planner or advisor to help you select the investment vehicles with higher interest rates. I'm a strategist. We'll come up with the money and they'll help you get a higher interest rate for your longer term goals, some of which you see there on the screen and some of which we'll work together to come up with. You can start with a minimal investment. Now, I love the last bullet. If you think you cannot afford it, then you really needed to start yesterday. I opened my first investment account with $50. $50. That's all it took. That's all it took. $50. So, yes, you can. Absolutely. Yes, you can. So, where will the money come from? I love these 2 images, especially the broke but still shopping, because that's so many people. Okay, grab your piece of paper again. We're about to write down some more money. I'm so not a coffee drinker, and people come to my house and they're coffee drinkers, and I forget. I'm all of a sudden not the hostess with the mostest, but for you coffee drinkers, this is not the Starbucks coffee. But let's look at the top line. Coffee. If you drink 2 cups, if you drink the cheap coffee, that's somewhere between McDonald's and Starbucks, or between Wawa and Starbucks, $2 a day. And we're just talking about the work day. You work 5 days a week. That's $10, 4 weeks out the month, and then 12 months a year. That's $500 a year on coffee. Now, if it was Starbucks, special latte, pumpkin spice, something or another, it's way over $500 a year. Remember your piece of paper. And of course, when you get your coffee, you're going to nibble on something, a breakfast sandwich, a scone, a donut, or something. So that's estimated at $4, 5 days a week. It's almost $1,000. So between coffee and a nibbly, that is $1,500 a year, and we didn't even get to work yet. We're not even at the office. Now let's talk about lunch. I saw some of my colleagues from around the country pop on the webinar before we started. So I don't know the cost of lunch in other parts of the country, but this was Baltimore a few years ago. It is not Washington, D.C. It's much higher. So, but let's stick with what we have. $8, which would get you 2 slices of bread in Washington with nothing in between it. 5 days a week for the month and the year. $2,000 a year eating lunch out. Yes. And then around 2 o'clock, when our blood sugar drops, so we hit the vending machine and we get a snack and we get something to wash it down, and we add those 2 lines together, we make our way all the way across. That's about $800 a year at the vending machine. So we hit $1,500 before we got to our desk. Then we ran out at lunch and we spent $2,000 a year, and then we put $800 in the vending machine. How are we doing with our piece of paper here? And now if you smoke, and these are the no frills kind of cigarettes, at $6 a pack, 7 days a week is $2,000. This adds up to $6,216 per year. And if you look across the bottom, if you just went cold turkey and crawled into a cave. Now, mind you, this is just a work day. There's no nights on here, because I'm a happy hour, dinner out kind of woman. And there's no weekends, so we didn't go to the movies or we didn't go to the theater or anything like that. This is just a work day. Okay, so no nights and no weekends. So if we went cold turkey during the work day, that's $6,200, could be $31,000. The screen is covered on my side, but $186,000 in 30 years. But I'm not a cold turkey kind of a woman. I'm a strategist, but I'm a realistic strategist. So let's go back to the morning. Coffee and breakfast. So for that $1,500, what if we did half? What if we made coffee and breakfast at home half the time? Okay, we keep $750 and we spend $750. And let's do the same thing with lunch. So we keep $1,000 and we spend $1,000. So that's $1,750 in our pocket with coffee, breakfast, and lunch. Now with the snacks, I'm kind of the cold turkey, almost kind of. Instead of going to the vending machine, what if we went to like the bid box, Costco, BJ's, Walmart, Sam's, something, and we got those same snacks and bottled water a whole lot cheaper. So instead of $800 a year, we could probably do that for $150 to $200. We're getting the same exact thing, but we're paying a whole lot less. So we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it for probably 20 to 25% of the vending machine cost. Now I know cigarettes, That's an addiction. So we're totally on another plane here. So with that, we saved a lot of money on the first 5 line items. So with the cigarettes, we can actually use the savings to get some support. So we can use we can talk to our physician, and we can look at alternatives like the patch and Nicorette. We can look at my father smoked 2 to 4 packs per day, and he actually used acupuncture, and he stopped. He stopped. He stopped in, I think, 2000, and never went back. So yeah, let's stop the cigarettes because it's not healthy, and because we have money that we created that can pay for alternatives to help us stop with cigarettes. So how's that? How's our paper looking in terms of money that we're creating under our dollar signs on our paper? So here's another way to create money. Keep a spending journal. Get a 2x3 notebook and put it in your pocket or purse. Write down every penny that you spend for 60 days, whether you use cash, a credit card, or a debit card. No matter what you spend, how you spend it, write it down for 60 days. At the end of each week, take a look at where you spent your money and look for ways to trim your cash. So I had a client who did this, and he was stunned. When he looked back in his journal, he was shocked at how much money he spent buying books and magazines. And he said, Jen, you know, I have a library card, and everything that I spend money for is in the library for free. And he started going to the library and getting the same exact thing he was paying money for. He started getting it for free, but he didn't realize it until he started keeping a spending journal. And from time to time, even me, with what I do, I break out the spending journal just to keep myself on track. And one time I did it, and I was stunned at how much money I was spending paying to park my car. I said, oh, it's time for me to get a bicycle. I didn't, but it definitely made me more aware of what I was spending, you know, how I was spending. I was shocked at the parking, so I reevaluated and changed my ways and cut that parking cost way down. So it definitely will help you look at your spending in another way, because you'll identify some patterns and some habits that you didn't even know you had. So a spending journal for 60 days is an awesome, awesome thing to do, and you will create cash from it. So here's some spending journal entries. So we just have some random entries here. We have January 5th and 6th. So we ate a lot on January the 5th, and we ate a little bit on January the 6th. This is probably me telling on myself. Okay, and then let's take a look at January the 7th. And then we paid some bills on January the 8th. But if we go backwards, we really did eat a lot. We have almost $25 on the 5th. We bought groceries. I used to do this all the time in my 20s. Buy groceries and then eat out anyway. So groceries, let's say, are a necessity, and we still spent $15. So we have about $40 eating out on that page, and then another $25 eating out on that page. So we have a lot of eating out here. So if someone was really looking at trimming or saving for a particular reason, there's some opportunities here in the dining out, particularly since they bought groceries. Right after buying groceries, they spent $25 eating out. So that's just an example of how the spending journal might be able to show something, because they've got the bagel almost every day. Okay, so that's just an example of some spending journal entries. So I know I'm going kind of fast because, like I said, we have a lot to cover in a little bit of time, and there will be a replay that I will send out that's available to you. So putting your savings on autopilot. I love this. Love, love, love this as a definite way of creating cash. So I've showed you some ways to create some cash. Set aside up to 50% of the money you create to grow your savings. I've already talked about opening an online bank account. I've already talked about scheduling automatic transfers. When you schedule the automatic transfers of that 50%, your money is going to grow in these online bank accounts that don't have debit cards. And you're going to log in one day and have an OMG moment like, oh my goodness, look at that account balance. I had no idea that the money was going to grow like that it was going to grow that fast. Yes, it really will. It really will, because you're going to forget about it. And you're going to log in one day because it's time to purchase what you were saving for. And you're going to see all of these balances in these different accounts. And you say, oh my goodness, wow. Like, for example, when I purchased the house that I'm in, my plan was year 2 to do some landscaping, because I bought a short sale and I did like a HGTV house hunter renovation thing, like took the whole house apart. And so year 2, I was going to do the outside. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I opened up one of these online accounts and I named it landscaping, and I just put money in it. And I just said, hey, just keep putting money in it so that when the landscaping rolls around, the money will be there. Well, guess what? I still ain't did the landscaping, and the money is just sitting over there. When I get around the landscaping, the money is there. The money is there. Okay? So, and then the last bullet is a challenge. Regularly increase the amount of your transfers until you are saving at least 10% of your gross income. That's the challenge. And that's a pretty cool challenge. When you can get to the point where you are tithing or giving to charity 10%, and you are saving 10%, and you are living off of 80%, that is an awesome state and place to be in. But just get started. Just get started. Okay. So here are 5 simple steps for financial transformation. Step 1 is actually the hardest. It's the mindset. I mentioned it in the beginning. The hardest thing, we overcomplicate money. We overcomplicate money. We make it much harder than it actually is. When I speak live, I always ask a trick question. I say, how many people think math is difficult? And people raise their hand, especially if I have an audience. I'm just being funny. Have audience full of women, they'll raise their hand and it's, yeah, math is hard, da 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 da. And I say, how many people go into Macy's and there's a sale rack 10% off, and you keep walking to the rack that says 75% off, and all those same hands go off? I said, well, that's math. And then everybody starts laughing. And I said, oh, it's fractions. And if the cashier is off by $2, you know that. It's the mindset. And I can get folks laughing about it, but it's the same thing. So step 1 is the mindset. 2 is observation. Some of the things we covered here today were observations about your money. Step 3 is knowledge. We've covered a little bit about knowledge here today. Just a couple little sprinklings, nothing heavy duty. Execution is action. You can see all you want, you can learn all you want, but unless there's action and steps being taken and put in place, nothing's going to change. And step 5 is the yearning. Why do you want to make a change for you? You could have seen all the pictures you wanted in the news over the last couple of weeks, but what is making you say that now is the time. I've got to do it now. You know, like what made me decide that I wanted to go to grad school when I did versus all the years before when I didn't go. Something made me do it at that point in time. So the yearning, why now versus any time in the past versus any time in the future? What is the yearning? So here's something from a client. Back in 2008, Jennifer shared some of the principles with me. I didn't think I could save $400 every month, but with Jennifer's help, I've actually been saving more than that ever since. Yeah, she was a rock star. She went on and saved boatloads every month. So today's takeaways and actionable steps. Finding money. I want you to look at your piece of paper. Do you have anything under your dollar sign? Did you find any money in this webinar? Because I was just having fun. I wasn't even trying to scratch the surface, just having some fun. We talked about some simple money management strategies. We talked about avoiding overdraft and other fees. Some of those overdraft fees are $30 and $40 a pop, and folks are racking them up to the tune of billions and billions of dollars per year, lying in the bank's pockets. We talked about automatically adding to savings so that you're not caught off guard by life, and even showed you some places where you might have some money that you can even add to your savings. So we talked about the spending journal. We didn't talk about a spending plan, so really didn't cover that one. We talked about using 2 checking accounts. We talked about a couple different things here, okay? So you have your notes as well. So we talked about some training tools and supports that you can use to create a simple system that fixes the most common money problems while moving you toward the life of your dreams. Again, just having some fun and not even scratching the surface because we only had an hour. So we covered a lot here today, and I'm not even done. Got one more thing to cover. Okay, got one more thing to talk about. And I know it's not easy to make changes, especially around something as emotional as money. So what I decided to do is to offer something really special to the first 10 people who qualify, okay? It's an opportunity to have a private one-on-one discovery session with me at no cost, okay? This one-on-one session is valued at $400. And even if we never talk again after this session, you will discover at least one thing that's holding you back from breaking through to your financial goals. As you can imagine, offering a one-on-one session takes a lot of time. So we only have 10 openings for those of you who qualify and would like to book right away. So the first 10 people who qualify will be contacted via email at the end of the weekend and given the opportunity to schedule your session. So the sessions are scheduled on a first come, first served basis. So it's in your best interest to schedule right away. If we don't hear from you within 3 days, your session will be given to the next person on the waiting list. So this is my invitation to go ahead and fill out the questionnaire if you're interested. And I'm going to give you the link, and you can start filling it out now. So the link is www.discoverywithjennifer.com, and it's a free discovery session. So it's www.discoverywithjennifer.com, www.discoverywithjennifer.com. And again, it's okay to start filling out the questionnaire now while I'm talking, because I know how important this is for those of you who know that now is your time to step it up in your finances. So real quick, I want to go through the questions. And remember, I still have one more thing to cover with you. So here's the questions. Okay, and when you go into the link for the questionnaire, the box looks really small, particularly if you're on your phone, but you can resize the box where you answer, okay? Or the box will open up as you type in your answers, and you want to fill out the answers in as much detail as possible, and make sure you at the end you include your name, your email address, and your phone number. So here's the questions. Number one, and these are confidential, your answers are confidential. I am numb or indifferent about my finances and realize that my feelings are not normal. I am ready to take control of my finances now because, and again, like I said, why now versus in the past or in the future? Question number two, I am ready to put my future first and make my finances a priority because. Number three, I'm ready to have frank conversations about my finances. Having these open and honest conversations would, and you'll complete the sentence. Number four, I know my spending practices are holding me back, and I'm ready to change them because. Question five, I have a specific financial goal, which is, and I am serious about reaching it because. And number six, I am ready to put myself first and invest my time in getting the support I need because. And then I honor this discovery session gift. And if I qualify, I commit to following through by scheduling my session and showing up for the appointment. And then the last one is for your contact information. So those are the questions on the discovery session, session qualification questionnaire. So once again, go to www. I think I have it here on the slide. There it is. www.discoverywithjennifer.com and see if you qualify for one of the 10 free discovery sessions, and make sure that you include your name, email address, and phone number. And again, even if we don't talk after the discovery session, you will at least know the one thing that is holding you back from breaking through to your financial goals. Okay, so now I have one more thing to cover, and that is the rules for today's economy. And this is important. And that is cash is king and your credit score is queen. Cash is king and your credit score is queen. Whenever I see this slide, I think about my dentist. My dentist and his wife works for him in the practice. And their credit scores are both like well over 800. The top credit score is 850, and they're like over 820 each. And he loves to talk to me about my business, and he's an avid supporter of my business. And he loves to talk to me when he's working in my mouth, like cleaning my teeth. And a couple years ago, he was like, yeah, I need to get a roof on my house, and it's $30,000, and I'm going to pay cash. And I tried to raise up out the chair. I'm like, what? I'm like, you and your wife are self-employed, and you ride your bike to work every day, no matter what the weather is, unless there is ice, like deep snow and ice on the ground. If something happens to you, all of your income goes away, all of your wife's income goes away, and you're going to spend $30,000 in cash for a roof? I was like, look, just consider, because I don't give financial advice, consider taking a small loan, maybe put down half and taking a small loan. Your interest will be negligible because the remaining money will earn more than the interest on the loan, and paying the loan from the money, from the interest really, because cash is king. and if the recession hits, anything can happen and his business will fall off, or God forbid, he rides his bike in all kinds of weather. It doesn't matter. He's one of those green people. He was green before there was a green thing. I don't know if he did it or not, but he did get a roof, and I don't know how he paid for it. But cash is king, and you really need to understand that, and that's why the savings is so critical. And I'm going to say this because in my circle of financial experts, we know that a recession is coming, and we're not trying to scare our clients and our potential clients, but the economic indicators are there for the end of 2019 into 2020. Now is the time to be accumulating cash and lowering your debt, because we don't know, is it going to be a mild recession, a medium recession, or a major recession? Cash is king. It's time to accumulate your cash. Credit scores are critical. That's something I'm concerned about with the government shutdown, because so many of the furloughed employees have what's called a security clearance, and their credit scores are tied to their jobs. And so that's one of the things I'm working on them with, is protecting their credit scores so they don't lose their security clearance, because if they lose their security clearance, they lose their jobs. So having a credit score that's preferably over 740 is where you want to get your credit scores to. And that's why I say, I help people get out of debt and raise their credit scores at the same time, because the two are tied. The way my strategy works, the two are tied. You do one, the other happens. So that's something that's important. And I alluded to this earlier. More cash alone won't solve the problems and the stress for most people. So here you see the most popular types of debt in America is mortgage debt. But look at how close credit card debt is. Mortgage debt is 65%, but credit card debt is 50%. And a lot of people have auto loans, okay? And some people have auto loans that are like more than my first house. My first house cost $45,000. And people are buying cars that are like $60,000, $80,000, and $100,000. And they're riding around with them. They're like everyday cars, costing more than my first house. I think my second house was like $65,000. So, and student loan debt, but it's only 25%. I say only, but a lot of people have six-figure student loan debt. So when you look at these numbers, the credit card debt is a lot, because so many things are purchased on credit cards that are not necessities. During the furlough, people were buying food and necessities on credit cards. But when you have people buying a $6,000 television on a credit card, that's not a necessity as much as diapers for my child, or chicken so we can eat, versus filet mignon and lobster on a credit card is not the same as, a piece of chicken or some ground beef so we can eat. There's no judgment. It's just trying to get you to understand and see the difference in something that's a need versus a want. And then on the right-hand side, where you have the types of credit card debt versus by age, the Gen X versus the millennials, and the types of credit card debts and the things that people are concerned about, it's important to understand that you have to have a system in place when it comes to how you apply your cash to your debt. And again, as a strategist, having a system and a strategy and a plan is what is critical. Okay, so you need a system to eliminate your debt and to increase your credit cards. And when I came across this graphic, I absolutely loved it, because the borrower is a slave to the lender. And I didn't make that up. That's in the #1 best-selling all-time book. And here again is my simple steps. The mindset, that's the hardest part, is getting, our minds, our thought process into a new place. Observation, knowledge, execution, and yearning. And part of the knowledge and the mindset is overriding society and that inherent desire to keep up with the Joneses. It's something in that inherent desire to keep up with the Joneses. So my system, my strategy, 5 simple step system: stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt, raise credit scores, increase savings, all at the same time to move you towards the lifestyle of your dreams. Again, www.discoverywithjennifer.com. Remember, there are only 10 available sessions for those of you who qualify. For anyone that's listening to the playback or the recording, don't worry about it, because if all the sessions are taken, apply anyway, because some people don't follow through, and you will be the next one that we contact. I know that this may not be a concern for you, but sometimes people worry that I'm going to try to sell them something. It's not my style. Of course, if you want to learn what it would look like to work with me, we can certainly discuss that on the call. However, my main objective is to have you walk away knowing at least one thing that's holding you back from breaking through to your financial goals. So now that you have a way to get more help immediately with breaking through to your financial goals, okay, so I had already covered that. I'm just trying to go through my notes real quick because we are running out of time. Again, the discovery session is valued at $400. And remember that if you're contacted, then you must schedule your session within 3 days to hold your spot. In closing, I believe it's no accident that we are here together today. If you believe that too, I look forward to our next step together. Thank you for spending your evening with me. Stay safe, stay warm, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar or at a future in-person training. Thank you so very much.